and welcome to Unpublished Opinions, an Institute for Justice roundtable podcast where IJ attorneys get together and give their unvarnished and unpublished opinions about the law. I'm your host, John Wrench, the Assistant Director of the Center for Judicial Engagement at the Institute for Justice. We're recording this on October 21st, 2025, and I'm joined today by the Director of IJ Center for Judicial Engagement and my boss, Anthony Sanders. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Thank you, John. It's great to be here. Great to be here in person.
Yeah,
and then also with us today is senior attorney and our dear comrade.
Senior.
Anya Bidwell.
I'm not a senior. How dare you?
Didn't like the senior. Just attorney and dear comrade, Anya Bidwell. Welcome, Anya.
Hey, it's so great to be with all of you in person. It's really fun.
I don't know if before yesterday all of us had ever been in person before.
I think that's true. Yeah.
We're not a very in-person kind of podcast or
Yeah,
we'll see what that means for today. I think that
it could be
real eye contact. Oh my God.
I think that we're going to have a supremely interesting and special episode for everyone.
Supremely, huh?
Supremely, I'm going to see how many puns I can fit in. We are going to do a special Supreme Court episode today in honor of the U.S. Supreme Court term that just kicked off on first Monday, which was October 6th. And so if you like Supreme Court stuff, this is going to be just a collection of very interesting things about the court. As you're going to see, it's going to kind of go all over the map. There will be some substantive stuff, some trivia. And so to kick us off, Anthony, which dead U.S. Supreme Court justice would you choose to have dinner with and why?
Yes. So I was pre-warned about this question, unlike other questions I think that are coming. So I started thinking about more seriously this question, that people always talk about. I'd love to have dinner with Plato or, whoever. And so what do you want out of a dinner?
Socrates sounds much more fun.
Well, yeah. And what do you do at dinner? When you sit by someone you don't know that well, like at a dinner party, right?
Yeah.
Or you're introduced to someone. What do you want? Like someone you get along with? You want someone you agree with? You want someone who's going to entertain you?
Right.
You want someone you can
dinner?
talk to.
Yeah. So I thought who would be entertaining? And I think there's various Supreme Court justices you could nominate for this. There's there's many that you would not want to have dinner with, even that you might agree with, right, ideologically or about the law or what. You're like, that person is a cold fish who just goes home every day and reads and goes to sleep and never has any fun. So I don't want to have dinner with that person, right? Whoever that person is. So I thought
we're not naming names.
Person it would be great to have dinner with. I'm thinking I haven't read his biography or anything, but Thurgood Marshall, because he has all these stories, right? When he was litigating in the South and all those on the circuit,
tons of war stories.
Crazy cheap hotels when he was then going to court the next day to try to fight Klan members or whoever it was, and then I think he was a guy who liked to have a good time. From the little I know about him, he was not a teetotaler. Yeah, and so I think that would be a fun evening.
It's funny you picked basically the only public interest lawyer.
Yeah.
On the court.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, you two would have a lot in common. You can share war stories.
Talk 1983 litigation.
Yes,
whatever.
And how it's important to amend it.
That too, perhaps. He just amended by, having an opinion that reads it differently.
We can amend it by including federal officials in there.
So who are you having dinner with?
Nice transition.
Good way.
You don't want me to lecture you on 1983?
I get that every day.
I want to have dinner with somebody I can ask a lot of questions. And that person is Charles Whitaker.
Wow, deep cut.
Yes. I want to know all about his relationship with Frankfurter and with Black. There is this
Spicy
story.
time on the court.
Spicy time on the court. And Frankfurter liked to bully people into submission. And he obviously was extremely brilliant. And I think it kind of intimidated Whitaker. And Whitaker had a hard time trying to get out of Frankfurter's, constant just budging. And
So what was Whitaker? What's like his timeline on the court?
very short. He actually resigned because at some point he no longer could handle it. So he was Eisenhower, and then he resigned during Kennedy. And my favorite story is about Justice Black, and I kind of think about it every time I get intimidated. But Black didn't like what Frankfurter was doing with Whitaker. And one day he turned to Whitaker and said, "Remember, we're all boys grown tall." And I love that because it's true. And Black, by the way, is very much like that. Like his whole thing is like, I didn't go to a fancy school. I went to a night school in Alabama, but that doesn't make me any worse of a lawyer than someone like Frankfurter. I actually lived, I experienced things. And by the way, I did some things that were controversial, and I learned and I made mistakes and I learned again. And like life is experience, kind of the life of the law is, not logic, but experience. So I really admire that about Black. And I think Whitaker didn't have that amount of confidence that Black did. But Black was basically like, yeah, maybe I am not as fancy of a law school graduate as Frankfurter or, a law review article writer, but I understand the Constitution just as well.
It sounds like you want to have dinner with Black.
That's what I was going to ask. Why Whitaker over Black?
Because I want to understand, I feel like I understand Black. But I feel like I don't understand Whitaker, and or understand him, but I want him to kind of talk more about it. Like, why did you resign? Like it's one of the best jobs.
So you want to be a psychologist for an evening, which maybe is what dinner parties are.
Or
all
psychoanalyze a justice about being bullied by a very intimidating fellow Supreme Court justice.
Maybe that's what it is. But I feel like if I have questions, then a dinner will go, effortlessly. If I don't have questions, then we're in trouble, and there will be a lot of like quiet moments.
Because you want someone at dinner you're going to ask questions of, but maybe also who would ask some questions of you.
But then if they ask questions of me, I don't stop talking.
He sounds like he might be someone that works with. Like he might not want to talk. I mean, I guess it depends. I don't really know much about him, but
that's true.
If he got bullied by,
he's a shy man.
Who are you having dinner with?
I think I would. I don't think this is a very like. I think this is a popular choice, but I would pick Justice Scalia.
Yeah.
I just think that I can picture being at some hole-in-the-wall Italian restaurant, crushing a couple bottles of wine with Justice Scalia, and having an absolute night. And chatting about the law, and he's very warm and he's talkative. And I think, as you're drinking, I think you could. He's one of those people that I think you could have kind of fun, heated back and forth with. Like I think I could disagree with him on things. I think it would just be fun. I don't think it would be like Frankfurter, who would get annoyed at you challenging him or questioning him.
I think you'd have. I mean, I know people who knew Justice Scalia. Didn't know him myself, but I think you'd have to have a little bit of a thick skin. Yeah. Because he'd probably poke you, right? And you have to know to take that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think you'd have to probably approach him as like a well-meaning, fun, but definitely like ribbing grandpa who's going to like kind of pick on you a little bit, but also I think wants you to like play back
and give you, he would give you useful information about yourself, right? If there's something that he finds about you to make fun of, it's like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that about myself. Okay.
Yeah. But I think that, like I was thinking of this as well as like, what do I want out of a dinner, out of this dinner? And I think I would want conversation and back and forth. And I'd want to be amused. And I think that Justice Scalia, based on everything I've heard, is probably quite amusing at dinner.
There'd be no shortage of laughter.
No. Right. I'm sure you'd have fun.
Yeah. So another question related to the court is obviously kind of questioning has changed throughout Supreme Court history. There was a time where it was not a very hot bench. My understanding is that Frankfurter actually contributed to a little bit more of an aggressive questioning. And then Justice Scalia kind of changed the bench a bit more.
60s and 70s were pretty quiet.
Yeah.
Like if you listen to those oral arguments from like late 60s, early 70s, and early 80s too, before Scalia got on the bench, like that period is super dead. Quiet. You just feel like those guys are reading from their notes.
Yeah.
Kind of just a presentation.
Right. And so today I'm wondering, and you can pick from anybody who's either deceased or still on the bench, but who is your favorite questioner on the court? And if you can add it, what do you like out of a good Supreme Court question? Like when you hear questioning from the court that you think is effective or that you admire, what are those traits?
I'm a glutton for punishment, so
Okay.
I'm gonna say Alito.
Okay.
I really like Alito.
Very intense questioning.
He is so sharp and he sees through anything. Like whatever you think about him in terms of like, oh, he's rolling his eyes. He's like not happy with your answer. He's being too aggressive. But he understands every case that comes before him. And like, he is like a laser, like identifying the main problems. And sometimes it wouldn't be the main problem. Sometimes it just would be like, if he's not on your side and he thinks like you shouldn't even be here, he'd be like, why don't you tell the audience the facts of your case? So everybody understands, what kind of a human being we're talking about here, which is not fair.
Did
But
he have many questions of you?
He did. He actually asked, he asked a question which was essentially like, why are you even bringing this case? Kind of like trying to, and I don't like those kinds of questions, right? Trying to like say that somehow you just like engineered a case to try to manipulate the court into getting to a particular conclusion. But I do think when he wants to be, just like a fair questioner who finds the core of the matter, he always can be that. And I really respect that. Like there isn't a moment in any of the arguments that I listen to where I think, he is not really engaged.
Yeah.
He's engaged in every single one of them.
So you stole my answer because I was going to say that I think the best questioner on the court in some ways is Justice Alito because he has this kind of prosecutor's entrapment skill.
Yeah.
Yeah, that he's done many times and leads the attorney down a road where they know where it's going, but they can't get out of it.
Yeah.
And then
it also helps to understand the issue better. Yeah. Right? Like that's the thing. It's like he really kind of gets to the heart of every case. Kagan is kind of like that. Kagan was my second close to Alito.
Kagan is my pick.
Yeah.
For a similar reason that I think that she is very good at finding kind of the hinge.
Yes.
And then distilling that down into hypos that then kind of narrow it down even more. I do think that she's less than Justice Alito. I think Justice Alito is probably the best at like the slow squeeze of the advocate until you realize that like you've just conceded something that's pretty bad. But yeah, I think that Justice Kagan also I find kind of like lighthearted and amusing sometimes. Like her hypos are sometimes fun because you can tell that she has thought of this like this hypo to this weird law school professorial hypo to kind of get down to the.
But I think at least who's on the court now, the best, the most helpful questions are Justice Barrett's because she just can really distill down to what is the hard part of this case that we're grappling with. And they seem to be not like often her questions that are like that seem to be not trying to make one side or the other win. Yeah. It was just like, this is this
That's
hard
true.
kind of metaphysical problem at the heart of this case where the court is going to have to really work. Can you help us get there? And, she has whatever view she has, but it helps bring it out.
It does come off very much as a very honest version of like, I'm just trying to get this right. And I'm trying to understand where the hard part is.
I'm thinking historically, so I don't listen, unlike our colleague John Ross, to like Supreme Court arguments from 1959, that are recorded on old reel-to-reels. So historically, I don't have much of an idea of who is a great questioner.
Frankfurter was a devastating questioner. Yeah. He was very aggressive, very intelligent questions, but it was. I mean, I've read some stuff by Adam Feldman and others that like Justice Scalia actually did like by the numbers transform oral argument.
Yeah, I believe that.
Like it did change. It made it a very hot bench, and it's kind of stuck. It's only gotten probably hotter. So
but there is like there is purpose to that, right? It really does feel like they are grappling with issues, and sometimes there will be cases where you feel like they made up their minds, but sometimes there's like very helpful inquiry that's happening, and I think it's helpful for the audience too. Now that we can listen to the oral arguments, you kind of if we were able to listen to the oral arguments like 30 years ago, or now 40, 50 years ago, right? And the public would like tune in. They'd be like, what are these guys doing here? Like, what is even the purpose of oral argument? But now, if you tune in and you're like, oh, the purpose of the oral argument is actually to find truth, if you can.
I do think though that Scalia took it a little too far, right? With that, because back then it was 30 minutes aside. There was no, Rehnquist wouldn't allow anything beyond that, and it wasn't just Scalia, but he was the one who led, this kind of rapid fire. Attorneys can't even get their point out, and
interrupting people at their first word of their argument.
And so Thomas has said that's why he shut up. It wasn't just he has William Scalia, although maybe, I don't know. But he said, when he first got on the court, I don't know if this is true, but he has said in the past that when he first got on the court, so in 1991, they'd let attorneys talk more. Of course, Scalia had already been there a while at that point, but it just kept ramping up. And so then he was like, it's not even worth me asking questions. And then, then everything got scrambled with the COVID experience. And now we have this, it lasts longer, but with the seriatim questions,
the seriatim part,
it
it's
seems
great.
We're in a good spot now. You got to suffer through the whole thing.
I agree. I think we're in a very good spot, especially for junior justices, because, often if you are asking a question simultaneously with a more senior justice, you have to yield. So very often the junior justices just kind of have to shut up during the entire oral argument if it's a hot bench. But then they actually get a chance to ask their questions during the seriatim period. And you as an advocate are not worried that the argument is going to be hijacked and you actually won't be able to talk to the justices whom you're actually trying to convince. Now you kind of feel like it's okay, right? Even if somebody hijacks the question time, the first 30 minutes that you have, then you still will have an opportunity to address concerns by other justices.
And you also haven't escaped, that killer question you still might get if you're an advocate.
That's true.
Yeah. Keeps you on your toes.
I do agree that it seems like, I think I agree that Justice Scalia kind of pushed the court in one direction and it went very hard in that direction. But I do like the balance of where the court is now, because I have listened to a lot of old oral arguments and I don't find them very helpful. Like many of them just don't seem very helpful.
Totally.
And now, you can listen. It doesn't even need to be that interesting of a case. If you listen to the oral argument, I tell people who are not law people to listen to arguments, and some of them are fascinating, and I hope it kind of sticks with what the court is doing right now.
There's also something about just they seem more prepared than justices were like 40 years ago. They can often those questions would be like, oh my God, did you even read anything? And maybe it's just a function of we have clerks now have much more information to help their judge to prepare, right? And just the availability of stuff and the engagement with the world seems much greater. And some of it too is just old white guys.
Well, speaking of old white guys, we'll see. I definitely have an old white guy as one of parts of my answer, but I'm curious if you could pick any two justices to be on the court at the same time, obviously that weren't, who would they be and why? Anthony, you want
so they weren't?
They were not on the court at the same time, yeah, and you want to match them up.
Yeah.
It could be as friends, it could be as enemies, it could be because you want them to work off of each other,
Because this thought experiment allows all kinds of things to happen.
Oh yeah,
of course, would never happen. It's kind of like, who would you put in a time machine?
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking you could put someone who's today thinks of themselves as a strong originalist, like Thomas, and have them sit with Justice Marshall.
Yeah,
I love that.
Like the original Justice Marshall.
Yeah.
I love that.
And Thomas saying, well, the original meaning is such and such, and Marshall's like, well, I am the original meaning, as far as we're concerned today. So I don't know, that's maybe too, that's not exactly what you're.
I think that's a perfectly fine answer of I'm going to give it away that Justice Thomas is one of mine for a similar reason, is that I think Justice Thomas is very methodological and theory driven, and I would like to see how that matches up against someone who is not or who is more historically rooted,
Yeah.
like actually historically.
So who's
Yeah.
that?
I picked Holmes. And that's not for the theory. It's
Oh,
because
boy.
he's
Thomas and
he's
Holmes.
anti. So here's my thinking here.
Oh boy.
Holmes is like anti-theory
Yeah.
in many ways. It's
Yes.
right. It's like this. It's
Experience, baby.
It's like experience and legal realism.
Yeah.
And
And we're all gonna die
we're all gonna
in
die.
the end. So what does it matter?
There's like this personal nihilism of Holmes.
Yeah.
Justice Thomas is a practicing Catholic. There's all these tensions
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Holmes fought in the Civil War.
Yeah.
Thomas is an African American man who is like one of the longest serving justices on the Supreme Court. I think that there would be a lot of interesting back and forth there, and there are some areas where I could see Justice Thomas's I would say the parts of him that lean towards not the court not over exerting itself. I could imagine them agreeing on those things, the court not overreaching. But I think on many other things, you would see some very interesting clashes of like, 2-paragraph pithy Justice Holmes opinions that are, brilliantly written. And then these very dense, long, historical, methodological Justice Thomas opinions. I think that would be interesting.
Holmes actually sometimes Chief Justice Taft would ask him to write opinions when people were like behind. Oh, this judge is like not meeting his deadline. Can you write it for him? And Holmes would be like,
Holmes was like in his 80s by then too.
He's like, no problem. Here's a 5-pager. What do you think of that one?
He would rip them out.
I'll take it. Yeah, and so that would be interesting too. Like if there was like that kind of a thing, and Thomas takes a long time to like write his things, and it's like, you missed your deadline, sir. Here's a 5-pager to summarize what you were thinking.
Who would yours be?
Okay, mine much more prosaic.
Okay.
I want Sandra Day O'Connor and Amy Coney Barrett.
Interesting.
Because I feel like the two ladies have together. They're like really. Just everything is just so, and they've juggled so many things their entire lives, and they're just like perfect about everything, like in their jobs, in their appearance, in their personal lives. So I feel like the court would be in a tip-top shape if the two of them are in the court together. And frankly, would be like a friendlier place where they would have much more face time. I feel like Sandra Day O'Connor was really good at this. And maybe that's kind of her experience as a politician in Arizona that also helped that. And you can't underestimate this. Like, we are fundamentally humans, like whether you're a Supreme Court justice or not.
Some of them. I'm not talking about anybody on the current court, by the way.
But yeah, I think that probably a court would be a more productive and friendlier place if the two of them were on the court. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So if you could, we're going to keep going with these what ifs. If you could, and you can pick, if you could argue or write the majority opinion in one historic case, what would it be?
Well, do you get a win if you argue?
Oh, yeah. No, probably not. No, I mean, I think that this is deep enough in fantasy that yes, that can be part of the. You can argue it, and that will change. I mean, potentially change the outcome. So it's, this is. But I don't want to say that you have to pick something where you save the world. I mean, I'm picking one of those things, obviously, but you could pick something that you think would just be fun to argue or write.
I think I would pick. Not a super old case, Wilkie versus Robbins. That's a case on federal official accountability where a lot of things just from that point on started to go wrong. And the facts are so good if you are an advocate for including, holding federal officials accountable for violations of constitutional rights or for violations of like common law rights that can be mapped onto the constitutional rights. Because it actually includes, instead of like a Customs and Border Protection officer or like a ICE agent, it has Bureau of Land Management folks who were trespassing on a rancher's land, and it just like the fact pattern is so juicy and so good to try to convince someone like Thomas, right, that it's not just an implied cause of action under Bivens. We're actually talking here about, rights that are as old as time that were enforced in state courts and should be enforced still, even if they're in federal court. So I feel like that case would give me an opportunity to have a lot of those arguments. And the interesting thing about Wilkie versus Robbins is that Justice Souter, in that opinion, actually did say that a rancher would have a cause of action for trespass in state court, which is just not true and something that we are fighting really hard right now to make possible.
And by your advocacy, you could point that out.
I could point that out. Exactly. I just feel like that would be the case. That would give me a lot of opportunities to try to change the court's mind and, stop it from, make that crack in the accountability wider. But,
So I think a case, I don't have the perfect answer, but I think a case that would be fun to argue would be the steel seizure case.
That's a good one. That's a good
from
pick.
the
Yeah.
I like
Korean
it.
War.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never listened to the arguments of that. It's been a while since
Sounds
I
too
read the
stressful,
opinions. There are a lot of opinions in that case, but the weighty national security interests and then the union stuff going on in the background. There's just a lot to dig into there. That might be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would be fun. What would you want the outcome to be?
I guess I mostly like the outcome.
Okay.
I mean, I like it's maybe a little cliche, but Justice Jackson's kind of three shades of Congress and the presidency are a helpful rubric.
He's a smart guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a fancy law school either.
No, not a fancy law school. Grew up in he was a potential pick for my dinner. I like that he.
Oh, yeah. He would have
grew
been
up
great for dinner.
in like, not rural New York, but like semi-rural, small town. And I think it's just like a pretty
I
fantastic
don't know if I want to
life.
talk about the Nuremberg trials.
I
over
think I
dinner.
would.
Ooh, yeah,
Totally.
I would want
Yes.
to. I would want to know like what like
Yes.
you experience such a historic. It's like a I don't know.
Yeah.
It felt like he was living at like a crux of a very important part of history.
Yeah.
And touched a bunch of different parts of it. I just find that very interesting. Right? Like and then you're back on the court and you're writing on the court after having been at the Nuremberg trials. I feel like that must be interesting.
You're going to save history like Doctor Who style here, it sounds like.
So, well, I was thinking of this because I was thinking of the unintended consequences of winning Dred Scott.
Oy.
Because that would be because it would be nice if Dred Scott was correctly decided for the obvious reasons of it being not abhorrently wrong. And also, like, would it have prevented the Civil War?
Probably
Because
not.
I don't
Would
know.
have made it come sooner.
I mean,
I don't think one particular factor is ever that decisive in history.
Yeah, it
I
might
think
have
we just
pushed it
love
I
this
think
idea.
Lincoln's election was pretty decisive in tripping the country into Civil War. Whether you think he should have been elected or not, I mean, that seems to be.
Dred Scott did inflame a lot, though.
Well,
I mean,
no, it did. But
yeah.
if it came the other way, right, then you would have had. There
The
would
other
have been
side-
this
the other
ability
inflammation,
for slaves to escape to the north,
Right.
Yeah.
and or other ways of getting them there, and that would have like turbocharged, as they say, the temperature, and it was turbocharged anyway.
Yeah,
but
it was already there's already all the kindling there. It is an interesting thing because I would like it to come out the right way. In part, this is my same thing for something like Korematsu. Even if the bad thing is going to happen after, I would like the court to get it right. Because looking back, I think it's helpful to not see the court kind of making excuses in prediction of the bad thing coming that the court is trying to avoid.
Yeah.
See, and I think that's a lesson too for like a current court and courts in general. Like this idea, Taney essentially wanted to insert himself into the political process, right? And that decision was very much a reflection of that.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of people today want the courts to undo results of the election, right? And to insert themselves in the political process. But it's like, even if the results of the election are horrific, and even if the policies that are currently happening often are the ones that you disagree with. There are certain areas in which a court can step in and exercise its role. But there are certain areas where it's like, no, sorry, this guy got elected and you can't hope that a court is going to make it all go away and make it all okay. And frankly, if it tries to, then, you might have really bad consequences like what happened after Dred Scott.
Yeah, it is interesting that Dred Scott is used as an example of, and I think Justice Scalia might have contributed this, of associating it with substantive due process more in people's minds. He paired that with this is an example of the court reaching out into the political process. And, whether you think that that's an accurate description or not, it'd be interesting to see what the consequences would be if Dred Scott were to decide the other way. So we're going to do some rapid fire Supreme Court trivia. The winner will receive a piece.
Can we just fight? Because
I'm okay
I
with
can
that.
touch Anthony.
On video.
I'll tell you who's winning. While they're fighting in front of me. The winner will receive a piece of Supreme Court paraphernalia of my choosing, and I will post it on social media or ask one of you to when I give it to you. But it will be coming. So what I'm saying is there are stakes to this.
Oh gosh.
Okay. Longest serving justice.
Douglas.
Okay, so I didn't do a good job of explaining the rules. I was going to pick you anyways to go first. The way it's going to work is if you get it wrong, the other person can steal.
Okay.
So Anya's correct. It is Douglas. For a bonus, who is the longest serving on the current court?
Ooh, that would be Thomas.
Okay. Correct.
Is it 1 point per answer? There's no funny points like Sheldon did with our Supreme Court preview a couple weeks ago.
We'll see.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, we'll see. I think so. At the very least, you're going to get 1 point. I think the bonus is more going to be for fun. I think the rest of it's going to be 1 point per answer. So now it's yours. Which two cases are tied for the most opinions in the same decision?
Two cases.
Yeah, there's two that are tied.
That's a tough question.
So I'm gonna guess McConnell versus FEC.
Okay, how many opinions?
I think there were 8.
Okay.
I mean, maybe there's been one there's 9 or more than 9, I guess. So that's my guess. And then the other one, so Dred Scott, I think there were 7. I don't think there were 8.
I regret to inform you that neither of them are the longest. Anya, do you want to steal? This is surprising. I did not know the answer to this. So
I have no idea.
Okay. There's 2 cases that have 10 opinions.
What the?
That is New York Times versus United States, the Pentagon Papers case.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a per curiam and 9 separate opinions.
Okay.
And then Furman versus Georgia, the case that put a de facto moratorium on the death penalty, per curiam and 9 separate opinions.
9 separate opinions. And then the court
Same
reversed
era.
itself pretty quickly afterwards.
Yeah, it was within the same
Yeah.
decade.
Yeah,
They
that's so
must have
interesting.
got really chatty there in the burger court for a while.
It's 1 year after another, I think. I think it's 71, 72. Yeah. So
That was the thing. One of the goals that Roberts had, right, as a chief judge,
Less
was
of
to less of that, and he kind of been increasingly less successful.
yeah.
To put it mildly.
Next question, which I think has to go to Anya, is what is the highest court in the land? It's not the Supreme Court. It's a place called the highest court in the land. Do you know? No? Don't know?
No.
Anthony, do you want to steal?
It's the basketball court above in the second floor of the Supreme Court.
I'll take it's the basketball
nice
court.
one. I
It's
like that.
It's on the 5th floor, but we'll
Yes.
take the
Oh.
basketball court.
I didn't realize it was on the 5th floor.
Apparently there's a 5th floor.
I know I have heard from people who have worked at the court that it's not the greatest floor.
Ouch.
Like it can really get to your feet.
Oh. There's a sign that says, do not play basketball or lift weights while the court is in session.
Didn't Thomas hurt himself playing?
Oh, you took my bonus. I was going to say which
Yeah.
justice tore their Achilles
Thomas did.
hooping at
I
the
probably would have
high-
guessed Thomas.
Yeah, he was
Or
he was
O'Connor, because she used
Yeah,
to
O'Connor
do
took her clerks there.
calisthenics, right?
Yeah, they did calisthenics, took her
But
clerks
would
up
they
there.
do it at the highest court? Is that where they did the
I think
calisthenics?
so.
I don't know. I know that a good number of justices have played at the highest court.
I think she took them there. And
do
by
I
the
get
way,
it?
You get the
go
point.
Jack LaLanne. I'm all about calisthenics. I get the extra point though, right? Calisthenics are the
you
best.
stole
You stole it. You stole
Do
it.
I get a different bonus?
You get the. I'll see if I can get you one. But I mean, you're tied right now. You both have 1 point. Do you accept this? you can appeal it to the basketball court. Okay, so I think this one then goes back to you, right? Or you stole it, or
Yes.
does it go to? Yeah. So it's tough. It's another sports one.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Which
It should land with
justice?
Anthony.
Which justice had a record for being the rushing leader in the NFL?
Byron Wizard White.
Oh my God, that was an easy one. Okay, even I knew that one.
Excellent. Do you know which teams he had that record for?
The Bills.
No.
Oh, man.
Giants.
Do you want a second? No.
Wait,
He
you
was-
were just jumping in. Well, I needed to get both teams, and I got one wrong. So
Yeah, it's okay.
Over to you.
One of them is not team. It's
I thought he
Pittsburgh.
played for the Bills.
He might have, but I think that the years
What?
that he had the records for were Pittsburgh Pirates and the Detroit Lions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now I remember the line.
He also apparently hooped at the highest court in the land and was formidable.
So
he
tell
scared
me,
people.
check this on. So is it true that basketball was invented as a warm-up sport for football, for American football?
I think there's some. Yeah, when Naismith put it together, it might have had something.
Yeah, I
to do
We're
think
gonna
that's how
get
it
a
came
listener.
around.
A
That-
Yeah,
listener's
yeah.
going to let us know that we're completely
We're completely off, like
wrong.
you idiots.
we don't have Google right in front of us, everyone. But well, John does.
I do. Okay, this is the last of them. So you could tie it. The youngest person to join the Supreme Court ever.
Ooh, that's so interesting. Gosh.
This hurts me to know this person's age too.
So then it's not somebody on the current court.
I will give you
There's a
that.
countdown.
The youngest. Gosh.
Dun, dun, dun.
That has to be like either on the current court and it's not.
It's not.
Or like back in the olden days
Yeah.
where I would have no idea. So go ahead.
It is Joseph Story.
I had the answer.
You already won.
You should have jumped
you already
in.
Won. You already won.
okay.
You already
Oh,
won.
then this is
Yeah,
fun.
you already won.
Yeah,
How old was
31.
Joseph Story?
He was 31.
32.
Oh,
He was
32.
32.
Yeah, that
He was
is
my
very
age.
depressing.
That's extremely depressing. So I will just ask you,
It was like a favor. Like it wasn't because he just was the most brilliant guy out there. Although
He was
you know,
pretty-
he was a
pretty-
pretty smart
Really,
dude.
yeah.
But
cookie.
yeah, he was like relative of someone, or
Okay.
if someone needed something. I'm forgetting all the details.
I hear
And,
that's
and by
how
the way,
it
you
works.
also have to address. So when did he die? Like, what was the average life expectancy back then?
Yeah, I don't.
Because if you actually adjust for the life expectancy, I think that he's not the youngest justice.
Even then, they thought it was pretty young.
Okay.
So
Because like
And then he
32,
served for, like,
what is
33 years.
like people died at 59, 60 average.
maybe.
know?
Yeah, I mean,
So-
he was on the court for a long time. Okay, my last thing for you is, our listeners like to know if there's any legal or non-legal things you're consuming. So one of each. It could be movies. It could be books.
Yeah.
It could be dreams that you've had
wow.
Oh,
about the law.
dreams.
Dreams of the law.
Okay.
It's a good book title.
Dreams of the law. So, okay, I'm reading two books simultaneously. I had to kind of interrupt what I was reading. I was reading Zbig, which is biography of Zbigniew Brzezinski, who was a national security advisor to Jimmy Carter, was born in Poland, a brilliant dude. And by reading that biography, you also learn a lot about that time. But then I had to interrupt it to read Bolton's book. Because like at first I'm like, whatever, it's Bolton's book. I, dismissed it. But then I learned the process by which he essentially wrote that book.
Well, he has learned that
It's an amazing
quite
process. I mean,
immediately.
he has, and it's like, and by the way, it's called The Room Where It Happened. And as you're reading it, it very much feels like it, right? And now I understand why, because he was taking contemporaneous notes and sending them to his wife and daughter to essentially compile.
Gmail.
Right. And so if you guys kind of want to really be in the room where it happened, I think it's a book worth reading. And I am having a lot of fun reading it.
So I am reading, and I have read, I finished it a little while ago, this book it's about a little over 20 years old. The Meaning of Everything, the story of the Oxford English Dictionary by Simon Winchester, who's a British turned American journalist. And it's absolutely fascinating how the OED came together. It took 70 years for the entire project to happen. So
Many
everyone
people
like
died.
who started died. It was this philology society that put it together. Anyway, amazing story. Some of the people in there are just outlandishly brilliant, crazy people. You couldn't run into these people today. They're just anyway. The whole story is crazy. And then my law thing is I'm reading a book right now called The Victorian Bar from the 80s, just about the Victorian era lawyers. And there is. Did you know that until 1860, a lot of courts in the UK or at least in England, charged admittance? So you'd have to give a shilling to go in and like watch a trial.
Wow.
And it was like huge entertainment.
Yeah.
So the courts would make a lot of money on this.
Cover.
Like, packed,
I love that.
rafters watching some murder trial. So,
Yeah, people were paying attention.
Right.
Because they didn't have other forms of entertainment.
It was like the theater. And even
I think
some
it's still there.
Some actors and barristers went to the same schools to be trained like how to, do your performance.
That's
anyway,
interesting. So my law-related thing is I'm reading Justice Kennedy's new memoir, Life, Law, and Liberty. And my non-law thing is I'm reading this book called Between Two Fires by Christopher Buehlman. It is based in France during the peak of the Black Plague early in the 100 Years' War. And it follows this disgraced knight, this young mysterious girl, and this priest who are kind of on this quest. And the pitch of the novel is like, what if the 100 Years' War and the Black Plague was the result of like a supernatural war? And so the author describes it as medieval horror. It's very good. But yeah, so Anthony and Anya, thank you so much for being on the show. To our listeners, I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Be sure to tune into our next episode. Until then, that's just like your unpublished opinion, man.
We're gonna do like a Chinaman, go and get some high.